the Barbican Center itself as a landmark became the the decoration of the London skyline in the eye of London inhabitants. This is a little references, maybe the most common definition of landmark, probably from the book Image of the City from Kevin Lynch. So he said that landmark is the point references considered to be considered to be external to the observer are simple physical elements which may vary widely in scale. So I think that is the thing we're trying to tell about this Barbican Center. So to tell this story, we selected 6 point of view from different spots in London around the Barbican Center, and this 6 spot are accompanied with 6 different fictional characters, which we're trying to replicate 6 different London inhabitants that view the Barbican Center differently from their different activities and different backgrounds. Okay. So the first one, maybe my part furthermore.
So from this picture that we know, his name is Adam, that he was living at the area that and that day he was trying to back home from from the market. So on this case, I don't want to buy some personal needs, and he look around, and this is the view of the Adam Sea. The location is quite near. That it's on before map is at number 1. Next. So this is Jessica. She was doing a survey on the location of the restaurant and business cafe. She parked his car exact in front of his shop, and the car she's parked facing Barbican buildings. That we can see at the picture there. And this is at number 2, the place we spotted at number 2. Next. And this is Joe. Joe is a co-worker office near the Barbican location. On that situation, he wants to find some food after he do some work at his office. He walks on, and he found out that his point of view was that like this view on this point of view, that there this is the game the picture. Next. So this is Winston. Winston is a co-worker that he works to fixing the road sign and bumpy road at that area. He was trying to fix the road every day, but the way to get his back home there's only one way to take the to take his home back. So this is the view that he should go back to, home every day. Thanks. This is Oliver. He is a student university that he prepared to take advantage to the famous club, football club, and each every every evening uh, he practiced at this area, and he always looked at the point of view that he exactly can see the Barbican building in front of him, like on this picture. Next. This is Billy. He is a postman. That he always do his job every day. That he's sending mail and some kind of items to the villagers around there. And this is where he went to go to the post box or post mail that he can see. This is a quite small spot that there's a Barbican building, and he always go to the area every day like this on this point of view. So basically, from the six different people that we kind of take a few that every each far or near the building, the Barbican building that have different or similar kind of feeling that there so we still can see the Barbican building near or far. So that's it.
Maybe Stanley can explain about the drawing itself.
Okay, so as you guys can see, the color that we pick for our illustration is the same as our symbol that first Pram explained. It's only have a three tone. It's the orange one, the blue, and the yellow. So our inspiration is from the sunset that we already know. So the Barbican, we imagine it's like a sunset, uh, and it's connecting the man-made features is the city, and the natural feature is the sky. So I mean, when we saw the sunset, it's like a point that attract our sight. So it's something that you can see in the evening, and that attract you to something amazing. So the Barbican is like the sun when we saw in the evening, and that's all about the color and our illustration and our presentation. I think that's all, and thank you for you guys' attention. And
I'll,
maybe Pram
I'll,
can add some more.
I'll add a little bit to conclude. So basically, we're trying to say that the Barbican Center is a great building that can interact with different kinds of peoples with different kinds of backgrounds. And this project is trying to explore how Barbican Center itself interacts with the people in its surroundings. So that's what we're trying to illustrate here. That's probably all. Thank you for listening.
Okay, Pram, thank you so much. Stanley and Aldo, thank you. We apologize once more because we forgot to introduce our reviewers. I mentioned your name, but I haven't introduced you all. So we have Win. Do you want to unmute yourself? I'm going to unmute you. All right. Okay, we have Win here. Win.
Hello.
Hello. Let me read a short bio of you. So Win Chandra is a senior architect at Herzog and de Meuron, currently leading currently leading a project in London. She was a former associate at Carmody Group and worked for OMA AMO in Rotterdam, focusing on the cultural projects across Europe. She is a visiting critic at Architectural Association, where she graduated, and Oxford Brookes University as well. That's Win. And where is it? Patrick, where are you?
Patrick is representing the
Okay.
Barbican.
Abdi, can you read it for me, please? I'm sorry.
Hello. Okay, so we have also Patrick Tantra. Patrick currently works as principal consultant in data analytics for Arcadis UK. Prior to Arcadis, he was a researcher in Bartlett UCL Center for Advanced Spatial Analysis, or CASA. In the past, he has also worked in various UK architectural practices, and he was once the vice chief of IAEU. And then also we have Nasya Bahaswan. Nasya is a senior executive designer in Mata Studio Jakarta, currently working distantly from London. She is also a dancer, studying with Royal Academy of Dance, London, and a former company member with Griatari Widyarini. She recently graduated Master of Fine Arts in Spatial Performance and Design in Architectural Association. Anis, we have Annie here. Also, you want to introduce Annie a bit?
Yeah, I actually found Annie's work when I was scrolling on Barbican's Instagram account. So Annie works for Barbican. Is that correct?
Yes, I work for the Barbican Archive.
Oh, okay. So yeah, go to the Instagram account and find her works. It's really amazing. So Annie here will be joining us to give review, like overall review at the end of this first session. Okay, so we have watched the first one. So who's gonna start? Win, you want to start?
Oh, so we're doing the review now?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the first one.
Okay. I find it quite interesting that the illustration actually captures quite a lot on how the team views London, and I have a question on this as well, because I would like to know whether it was a deliberate act wherever the residents or the people looking up to the skyline, they seem to only see the Barbican, which is the Barbican towers. I mean, there are 3 towers, but they're certainly not the tallest towers in London, and its proximity to City of London means that you can kind of turn your head. I think you can turn not so much, and then you will see other buildings. And I'm just wondering what prompted them to create this scene as if London has only a very low skyline, and the Barbican towers are like the Mordor, the only towers there are in the skyline. And I think I just find it really interesting, because it sort of paints the image of London that is different to what I see it, me living here and experiencing the skyline. So I'm just wondering whether that's a deliberate mood that they want to portray, or is that the impression they get? I wonder if this comes from the Google walkthrough, or are these images come from photographs? I don't know if the question is very clear. I think I just want to know why the decision was made to portray the London skyline with the lonely Barbican towers on it.
Yes, Prabhu, could you answer?
So the backstory of this project is our lecturer Kak Vernisia is telling her story about the Barbican Center itself. That she used the tower to be his her sort of way back home, and yeah, we used Google Street View, and we kind of realized that it was not the tallest tower, but it was probably one of the older tower in London. So
Yeah.
it kind of looked different than from where we were seeing. It kind of looked different from other like sort of modern towers in London, and we think that it is quite unique and extraordinary, and that it had a kind of rich history. For we're kind of guessing that it had a rich history for the London residents living around Barbican Center. So that's,
Yeah.
I hope that
does explain that, and I think it is correct, and I would like to think that in comparison to other towers in London, I mean, they are relatively old, but what I also find quite fascinating is that people's perception of these towers really changed throughout the time. And I think when it was completed in the 80s, at that time there was already quite a lot of concrete buildings that was already built, and they usually have quite a negative connotations because these towers are usually sort of kind of social housing that probably didn't work out, and some of them actually was demolished not long after. So the relationship, what people see Barbican Tower, I think now it's sort of people really appreciate it again. And I think, you know, maybe about 10 years ago people talk about brutalism in kind of very romantic ways, but it hasn't always been like that. But I do agree, I think it's quite fascinating that, you know, a certain tower language can provoke very different feelings. I think some people probably still hate it until now. Some people really love it, but it certainly is very unique in that way. So I think you captured the prominence of it in the city quite well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one. Nasha and Patrick, you want to join together, like giving the feedback together? Nasha first.
So I just had one question. I realized you use lots of colorful, like you have several color palettes in your drawing. Does those colors represent anything aside from decorative? Yeah. So blue, orange, yellow, all those colors, does it represent anything?
Okay. Maybe at first we pick these colors just for probably aesthetic reasons, but when the drawings are finished, we kind of looked at it that as my friend explained before, that the symbolism of a sunset that captures the beauty of a view. So the Barbican Center itself became like the sunset that that became the center point of a beautiful view, and the city of London became like kind of this I don't know if it's a correct word, but probably it's kind of a cold, uh, the cold thing that this sun uh, gives heat to. Probably that's what we can tell.
I just want to like give a little bit of feedback that you like during drawings, aside from the aesthetic, which is like it's very beautiful to see, but then sometimes you need to think like it's maybe you next time you will need to consider about what does the color represents. Like say if you use the blue colors that you can tell, like I don't know, maybe like the buildings used to be, I don't know, hospital or something, and then like it was the building itself feels cold, so that you put it blue colors in there and many other things, because like color represents a lot more than aesthetics.
Yes, thank you for the
Thank
feedback.
you.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So
Patrick?
last one, Patrick.
Pat?
Patrick.
Hi. So
Dari
this,
sini juga bisa.
I'm kind of cheating. So I think I've commented a lot on this project before, but because you're talking about the skyline, I thought and we're on site, I'll just show you the skyline here. So the tall buildings that you've drawn are probably that one and this other one on the back there. But at the same time, being in the middle of Barbican, you can see quite a lot of taller buildings. And it's quite funny now that you mentioned that, okay, this is probably the older ones. Yeah, you're quite right, actually. Just looking at this, it kind of represents how London develops in a way. So that is kind of towards the center west, but center of London as well. And you're kind of looking at an older part of London, but not as old as the Barbican. But then you can see that towards the east and towards southeast, especially that building. I can't zoom in. So, that building, for example, is probably the newest out of all the buildings that you can see here. So that's quite a nice observation, I thought. I guess the other thing that I just want to comment is also I commend you on the use of the English language because I think it's quite to be able to present something so technical in a it's hard enough. Like, for me, it's hard enough to do it in first language, my first language, or to do it in a second language is quite it's quite good. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I haven't unmuted myself. The next one will be from Fikra. The next one will be Fikra. Are you ready? Fikra and Henrich.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. You can share your screen if you like. Sorry, before you start, Ardi?
Yes, Miss.
Could you please check your WhatsApp and
yes, already.
You have you copy paste the link?
I'm doing it right now. Sorry.
Oh, all right. So let me give the the introduction for that one. So Ardi will be copying the link for you guys for all the participants. That's a link for our survey that I mentioned before. So I really wish that you are willing to give us feedback along with the ones for the kids, for the students' work. I think it'll be really great if they can have like qualitative kind of feedback from you all. So it's not only from the reviewers. So that's the link on the chat box. It will be also for the whole review and the session after this, the tour session. So yeah, I really wish that you would participate. Thank you. Okay, on to you.
Okay, wait a minute. There's a problem with my computer.
All right. Okay. in that case, Annie, do you want to add something?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Well, just I guess I really liked the last presentation. I guess I was just thinking about the colours as well. I really liked how it was kind of the Barbican was kind of illustrated as this kind of glowing beacon in the city, which the point's already been made that probably the reality of the skyline isn't quite like that. But I think the Barbican would like to see itself as a glowing beacon in the city of London. So it's a nice way of illustrating it. And also the colours as well. I guess maybe inadvertently, the colours are all very, very Barbican. The orange, you have orange red brick tiles lining the whole estate. I don't know whether you've seen this wayfinding system, which is used as a yellow line, which runs throughout the estate for visitors to find their way to the centre. I think the blue kind of relates to the concrete really nicely as well. So it might have not been the intention, but I think the kind of the palette of the first presentation sat really well with, with the Barbican's architecture.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Janice, I'm ready to present.
All right.
So before we started, I highly recommend you to use your earphone if you're using your mobile phone to watch this, or if you watch this on the laptop, I think it's okay. Wait a minute. So as you guys can see that we try to intervene the Barbican city as a skate spot that it's actually impossible right now, because I know that it's prohibited to skate in Barbican Center. So there probably there is like 10 skate spot that we chose as an angle of photography that capture another life of Barbican Center with the skateboarding as an activities. We know that the sound that happened in Barbican is actually echoing whatever happened inside of the Barbican Center, and also you can hear the sounds of the ambulance or the police, what the bells that really echoes into the Barbican Center. As you guys know, that Barbican is known with the rough surface that was that the material is the rough concrete. But we try to see the Barbican as a skateboard if someday that Barbican is possible to be a skate spot like in Barcelona, I think in Macba, that we try to find some spot like this that I know that skateboarder is like what to say. They're highly interested in the obstacle of architecture like stairs, ledges, or anything. Maybe you never imagine something like this happen in Barbican, but we try to achieve it. Well, we haven't get to know exactly about the Barbican spot by spot. So we also try to use our perspective as a photographer, not only as a skateboarder. There could be so many perspective that or tricks that they could do in the Barbican. They could make a photo like this, or even on the same angle, you could make so many photos with the different tricks, but that happen in the same one exact spot. So that's it from me, along with my partner Henrik Benedict. So I want to add some of my stories that why do I intervene Barbican as a skate spot or as a skateable cities. It reminds me to it reminds me of myself with my father, that my late father who just passed away 4 months ago, that we used to travel a lot to so many countries that we always wanted to see architectural objects that like Barbican or Tadao and Le Corbusier. Actually, my father's always seeing the building itself as an architectural object, but my interest is different with him. That I always look to the some particular spot that like stairs or ledges or even grass, anything that I could imagine that it's an skatable object. So that is that's all from me and my partner. We would like to say thank you for enjoying this presentation. Sorry for the consciousness of me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Fikra and Henry. So let's start with the feedbacks again. And Patrick, you want to start now?
Hi. Oh. I think this project is quite like the one thing that struck me. I think I mentioned it last time. To this project is the fact that you've explored sound And just standing in Barbican today, and it's quite nice that you're in the middle of the city, but you're hearing all these sounds are so foreign to the city. You don't hear the cars, you don't just hear this waterfall and just wind, the rustle of the leaves. It's quite something. Yeah. And again, I think this is something also quite nice that you've placed the character of the skateboarder in how this person then uses the space. And somehow it's also kind of interesting. Like the previous project also had these characters that somehow uses the Barbican, and the Barbican is represented through that character's eyes. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay. Also, for information as well, Fikra also did a very interesting project last time. He exploring space and the sound when he tried to develop or try to observe all of the audio aspects from a spatial objects or quality. So yes, right now he's trying to doing more or less the same with another different architectural object. So what do you think, Nasya?
I honestly really like this one. It's quite interesting to see Barbican, how you view Barbican from another point of view, like as a skateboarder. So it doesn't feel like I don't know, for me it doesn't feel like it's boring to see. Like it's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. It's just so good. Like maybe you could I think maybe you could also make it more not representative, but like more flowing, as in you could learn more software how to make your skateboarding image more flowing, because this time it's a little bit how to say stop motion, but for representation. So there's a lot of things that you could extend from this image. Like you could make maybe next time you could make the moving image on the background, but then the skateboarder stays, and yeah, it's just a good start.
Thank you. Thank you, Nasya.
And Win?
Yes, I think it's a really great little work. Do you actually skateboard?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I've been skating for like a decade this year.
Right, it's architecture school, right? Blame it always. I really like how you're referencing the reality of Barbican, the fact that you can't skateboard there. And yes, it is very different to something like Makba. Makba has become in itself, well, Makba is quite different, right? Because Makba is a building, it has a really large urban space, and they consciously let a lot of people skate there, and it becomes a thing in itself, and it's a huge subculture going on, and it's really wonderful in that sense. And what I really like about this this illustration is that it really it's almost like a critique, and I know that maybe it wasn't your intention to take it in that point of view, but Barbican has never been a public project per se. It's historically has always been something more kind of it's a gentrification project, really. What's really interesting about the Barbican is that it does strike quite a good balance between a capitalist project and it being public, in a sense that there's not really like a gate you can enter Barbican from many different ways. I mean, aside from these days where you have to buy a ticket because of COVID, but you can really get out of the station, walk up. I mean, Patrick will show you, and then you're there. So in a sense, in terms of how you get in and out of Barbican, it feels public. You know, it's not a gated community, but there is certainly a kind of unspoken rule that you can't skate there. And I think even if I didn't know that rule black and white, I would have an inkling that that would be the case. And so what you were saying about reimagining Barbican as a space that you can really skate, it's, I think, in a way a critique about an urban space, because I think a lot of cities are grappling with this dichotomy. At the same time, they really want to have public space, but once people sort of come in, put a bit of graffiti, skate a little bit, and then they freak out. And in London, they really try to create pockets for that to happen. For example, they create skate parks, and then you also have a part of the South Bank where you can do graffiti, but it's never the same, because it's, as you were saying, that as a skateboarder, I mean, skate parks are great, obviously, but you always look for something that is there and it's part of a building or part of an urban scene. So I think my encouragement, are you in your third year?
Yes, I'm a third year.
I think if you haven't done it already, I think you should really look into this kind of little subtlety about what makes urban space urban, what makes public and what makes private. And sometimes these are very little things. And I think architects and urban designers have always tried to find out what that is, because, you know, if you put a chair in an urban space, doesn't mean that it suddenly becomes a public space. And a lot of developers are having problems with creating big urban space and no one's really using them, you know. And then there are a lot of great urban space that people want to use it for skateboarding and other activities, and they won't let them. So there's always this kind of really subtle, but at the same time very useful way, thinking about what makes a space urban. You know, where is that line, and how can you sort of push it a little bit and not. So I think it's what you're doing with the illustration is great in a way, because it's already in itself a beautiful illustration, but you can take it a little bit further if you really want to get into the theory of it, and maybe push a little bit of that criticism. I think it would be a really awesome project.
Thank you, Win.
Yes, okay, thank you, Win. Also, I actually want to hear a lot of comments from Annie for these projects, but then actually we are a bit late from the schedule. So Annie, would you please save your comments for at least the last of, I mean, after the presentation, for just for us to a bit, I mean, faster with the presentation. Okay, then next one will be actually the last one. It's Felicia, Owen, and Tanaka.
Hi everyone, firstly let me introduce myself. I'm Gilbert, and my friend I'm working with in this project, there's Felicia and Owen. Now we're going to present you our animation project with the title Barbican Adventure. This animation is about a little girl who explores various places in Barbican and inside Barbican. Now, let's watch it.
Yeah, and that's the whole video. She enjoyed her time walking through the Barbican area, and I hope you enjoyed it too. And now, as you can see from the map, her journey starts from the Barbican station and ends at another train station, which is Moorgate Station. And in between her journey, she passes the Barbican area, which we try to recreate the places in pixel form, and also represent each place with her personal experiences. For example, it's like feeding the fishes, or maybe got caught staring at the schoolgirls, or maybe peeking through a window church, or maybe even watching the bird flies from the railing. And we think that these personal experiences is what we hope could make you guys relate to your personal real life experiences. And also we hope this animation could make you able to feel the enjoyment as much as she does. And that's all from us. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Felis. For Felis, Owen, and siapa?
Tanaka nih.
Right, Tanaka, yeah. Okay. Who wants to start? Win, do you want to start? You have unmute yourself.
I thought it's kind of funny that the route that they're taking would be quite similar to the route that Patrick and Nasha would be taking, but they will be going through it from inside the Barbican. So that's quite nice. And no, I think it's great. I think what it really captures how well. I think the map is ever so slightly misleading because it sort of portrays the Barbican as a building, and then you have the church, and then you have sort of all this kind of separate element, when actually in reality, I've never been to Salters Hall. Maybe other people has, but the church, the school for girls, Museum of London, Ironmonger's Hall, Moorgate Station, Barbican Station, exhibition halls, they're all actually connected. You don't have to leave the center to go to any of these places. So I find it quite interesting that it's pictured in a very disparate manner this way. Maybe my question to them would be, is there any particular reason why it was represented that way? Or do you actually understand that the Barbican, if you draw a diagram, it's actually almost, it's not in the middle of it, but it's almost kind of it's kind of weaving all these spaces together. So I'm wondering whether they know that, but then they choose to represent it in a different way, or is there any particular reason?
Thank you for asking. So we choose this place because we do a little bit of research of a tourist place around that area. So we choose a tourist destination between Barbican Station and Moorgate Station, and we use Google Maps to pinpoint. So from the nearest place from each location, so we can get this map.
Yeah, I think I guess my comment would be that at the closer inspection, the whole point of the Barbican is this kind of really big complex that it's the building touches almost every single one of them. Like the church, for example, is, I would call it inside the Barbican. The school is inside the Barbican. So yeah, I just think maybe because this is architecture school, I think it would be quite interesting to look at this in a kind of, it's not more realistic, but more kind of diagrammatic way of how the building actually connects with the separate elements. I think that's it for me. But in any case, it's fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Patrick and Nasha.
Yeah, karena Nasha, because Nasha doesn't really want to say anything.
No.
I think this is something.
No, they can say it.
I really like this project in a way that it's, because you guys haven't gone to site yet, and in a way, I can assume that you probably never go to site. There is this, I don't know, you always have to imagine the site no matter what you do. Like, no matter how much research, you'll never be here physically. And somehow this project represents that. It's always in another world, where even the framing is kind of like you only see within this. Yeah. Like you maybe never see beyond beyond the building. Just what's over that frame, right? Is that all buildings? Like, what is it? It never exists. I quite like that. It's always 2D. It's a game. I don't know. It's really. I think it's quite a poetic way to represent your distance from this project. At the same time, having a little character that moves around, and then somehow experiencing that space through this character. Something like that. Yeah, it's nice. Well done.
And
okay, I think so we think we want to give our the next slot to someone else. Start this.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Marcia, what do you think?
Technically, it's like similar to Patrick, but then like when I see this, it's more of like I see this is more of like I don't know, a pathway to a game. Like you could literally develop this into a like I don't know, a visual animation for a game, because it's quite interesting for to see an architecture buildings through animations. And I don't know, for me it's easier for you to remember the features of the buildings, aside from looking at, like, sometimes looking at the real thing. It's kind of a little bit boring because it's just the same, and then once you put it into animations and then you have your own representation, it's making it more interesting. And then it's quite an educative image and animation for even people younger than us, and they could learn architectural features from your image and from your animations. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that's all the presentation, but I'd like to give some time for Annie, if you have general comments on, especially for the second and the third one.
Yeah, sure. I'll just refer to my notes. Yeah, so the second one, the skating presentation, I think I really liked it because of the personal story behind the illustrations. I think a criticism, when people don't like the Barbican, a criticism of it is often that it's impersonal and cold, a cold place to visit. The monumental nature of the architecture means that it kind of forces the visitors to behave in a certain way. And what I really liked about the skating project was how that's kind of an example of someone kind of pushing back against the architecture in a way and kind of using it for their own purpose. And although skating is not allowed in the Barbican, it definitely happens. And there are actually some quite good videos on YouTube of maybe not skaters, but a lot of free runners and people doing parkour, which the residents hate a lot. But people do it a lot in the Barbican because it really lends itself to that kind of activity. So maybe you might be interested in having a look at that on YouTube for some more kind of inspiration on how to show the architecture in that way. And yeah, the third one, the kind of game of the Barbican, I loved so much. I just thought the animation was really brilliant. It felt, I've spent a lot of time in the Barbican. I actually went to school there. So I went to the City of London School for Girls before, now I work there. So I spent a lot of time looking at all of the details of the complex. And so what I really liked about the animation was that it kind of shows the architecture from that human perspective, and you kind of only see little sections of each location. And so to me that felt very like the Barbican I recognize, even though it was the most kind of stylized animation. I would love to play a game version of the Barbican, so please make that into a game. So yeah, great work everybody. It was so interesting to see everyone's presentations. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Annie. And in the chat box we have Pak Undi. Pak Undi is saying something here. Undi, do you wanna tell it to the floor directly? So Pak Undi says that Fikra's animation is a double-coded representation of private-public relations between actual users imagined uses symbolic uses. Imagined uses and symbolic uses. Okay. Pauli, do you want to add something? Maybe on the third one as well? Is Pauli still here? Sorry, I don't think so. Okay, Pauli's not here anymore. All right. Well, we can ask him later. Okay, so that's the end of the first session. Or yeah, we have been late right now, so let's move on. Patrick, Masha, and Win, are you guys ready for the second session?
We need to prepare this.
Yeah, sure. There are a few participants that has just come, so I wanna ask you once again, if you don't mind, to fill up this form on the chat box. There you go. Yeah. Okay, here's. All right, that's the new entry on the chat box. That's a survey. You can fill up your feedback for the students. Ardi, do you want to add something?
I mean, I believe we already talk a lot with the students, but however, I appreciate a lot all the comments and feedbacks from our guests tonight. I mean, it's always interesting to see these projects from different eyes, because we already work with them for like 2 months, let's say, and then and 1 month for this project especially, and then we already know all of the ideas and their approaches, how to draw, how they want to make the graphic language. And then yes, I mean, it's always always nice to hear from different sides, and also different perspective. And then maybe I don't know, I'm interested. I'm interested also with this virtual I mean, learning situation, and maybe after also this tour, we can find out also something. I mean, just to connect more between these two different place and time together, and then just see how it works. And yes, shall we do the tour?
If Patrick is not ready, we have another question from Edgar. Edgar, do you want to ask it yourself? Patrick, I cannot see your. What? Oh, someone's coming. Oh, that's you. All right. But Edgar, do you want to ask? The third one? Yeah, please.
Maybe for the third group, just now you were using some kind of pixelated type of animation. Maybe is there any concept or inspiration towards it to the Barbican Center? I think that's the only question I have.
Okay. Anyone want to answer? The third group, Owen, probably.
So in first, we want to use photo and with animation with it, but when Ko Ardi and Ciani say it's a little bit hard to use perspective photo to add character, so we make a 2D background with pixelated art. We use pixelated art, so it's because it's a little bit easier to do in 1 and 2 weeks span of our work time. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Patrick and Nasha, are you ready? Okay, that's great. So Patrick and Nasha will be sharing their journey. One of you has to mute yourself. Okay, so actually I came up with this idea one afternoon. How is it that we are going to, respond to this situation with this virtual learning? How do we manage to learn about architecture when we cannot visit the place that we want to study? And now that I have this election class, I talked to Ardi, and then we kind of curious actually about how to do it. So the first half of the semester was spent on the students' room, on the students' workplace at home. And right now we want to go further. And then why don't we go that far? I mean, to Europe, to the UK, to London. So this is just came up, this idea one afternoon, and then I just called Patrick. At that time in London, it was really early in the morning, and then Patrick just answered me, and that's amazing because I didn't realize that he wakes up really early every day. And then we had the talk, and then that's all. And then okay, let's do it. And so it goes on until now. It's been a month, I guess, that we prepared this. Not that intensely, of course, because all of us are busy with our own stuff. But now that it's realized, I just wonder how much we can push it. So let's see.
Okay, gimana nih? Do I have to make introductions or should I just start?
Well, you can start, but I barely can hear your voice. I mean, it's kind of. Try to speak again.
Kedengeran nggak sekarang? Is it better or?
Yes, it's clear now.
Okay, so maybe okay, this is how we're gonna do it. How we're not gonna do it. So I'm gonna start walking towards the station, and I think Win is gonna provide a lot of the commentary.
How do we do that? Because wouldn't it make my screen bigger?
No,
I don't
no,
think
you
so,
don't
right?
have to. No, you just.
No,
like,
but as in, like, does it mean that I overtake your screen, or it doesn't set up that
no.
way?
You just talk. Maybe
Okay,
turn
cool.
off your. Yeah, maybe turn off your video, and then.
Yeah, I'll turn off my video. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. Yeah, okay, there you go.
Okay, and then so just to continue from what Anis was saying. So the basic premise for me, I think when I first started this project was okay to ask okay, if you were to do a site visit where you're not able to go to site because of the pandemic and whatnot, can it be done virtually, right? And also to tie it back with architectural education, because having to go to site and whatnot it's such a key component to making architecture, and also to architecture education, because you can learn so much from just going through buildings, looking at buildings. But at the moment that's kind of very limited. We can't even go in at the moment because and I'm already here. That's just the world has changed now. So asking that question, and also kind of once you ask that question, how do we do it then, right? What technology do we use? So in a way, this is a big experiment, and thank you for joining us. So let's start the walk before everyone gets too bored. So we're at the moment at the podium level. This is it's kind of in the middle of the Barbican in a way. Depends how you define the middle of the Barbican. I guess you can see the skyline around us. So over there, this is inside this building is all the public functions of the building. I would say you have the restaurants, you have the theaters and whatnot. So we'll cover that a bit later. But you can see, this is quite an interesting place. It's quite green. It's quite green. It's got a lot of water. It's got a lot of empty spaces. I mean, normally you would get a lot of people here enjoying the lunch. I mean, not normally, but in the old normal, I guess. Yeah, this is quite a vibrant place, not this empty. Okay, so when I'm gonna now walk towards the station. I'm probably gonna cheat a little bit and walk up the podium there as well, so that we can have a yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Win, do you want to say anything? So that's Shakespeare Tower.
Yeah, I think the journey back to the station, as I mentioned earlier, I think this is quite unique to the Barbican. I mean, maybe there are several buildings like that in the city of London, but certainly this typology of like an urban project that is very interconnected to stations, and you know, the scale is so huge that it sort of permeates and it linked to another building is not that common in London. I know that if you go to, say, Hong Kong or Singapore or even Japan, you see this condition quite a lot underground. So there's actually interconnectedness between underground stations and buildings, and one of the reasons for that is because the tube stations in London are very, very old. So in a way, the buildings would be built to connect to the station instead of the other way around. So if you imagine, the Barbican station has been around 100 years earlier than the building. So I find that quite unique, which means that they're really exploring, instead of connecting buildings from the underground, they try to connect from the podium level. And that is what I find quite unique into the era of the building. Also, when it was built back in the 60s, this idea of a raised or elevated city was, it wasn't something quite new. I think Mies van der Rohe and Hilberseimer had written about it from the 20s, but it was then after the war that you have a huge area of City of London that is, you know, basically flattened out. Then a lot of the architects testing this idea. So I just want to kind of pay particular attention to that, because now what Patrick is doing is exiting the Barbican through the station, and he doesn't really need to go to the street level, which is quite unique.
Do you want to mention something about the kind of residential?
Yeah, well,
public
as you can see here, Patrick is showing you one typology of the residential building, which is quite nice, because I mean, probably Annie know a little bit more about these different typologies, but this one, for example, has kind of a little nifty roof terrace on top, and it has this kind of glazing facing the park, and that is very different from the tower. So there's about 2,000 or so flats in the Barbican, and there's 140 different types, and that's really quite a lot for any sort of development. And I think this is something that makes it work so well, because it tries to emulate a more kind of natural condition when you're not in a state or building complex, where you would have different types of house, you have different interfaces with the street, and the Barbican offers that. And I think it's one of the things that they try to do to entice people to live in this estate, that you have so many different type of housing that you can choose from if you choose to live here. And that is definitely one of the things that I feel why this estate works quite well. I know that, oh, it's very noisy. Well, we walked into the station. I know that from also friends who are living in the Barbican, they always talk about which unit they live in and which type of typology, and there's always a certain intrigue on how different their flat is to the other one, and which one has more original features, yada yada. So I think there's a little bit of that works really well, because if you imagine an estate this big, but then every housing typology is the same, then it wouldn't be as intriguing. And you're saying here there's a lot of open space, which is very nice, I suppose, for the residents. And people use this level a lot. I mean, you see people literally just going around running on the podium level without having to go down the streets, and you have a pretty good run. I think we did it the other day with Patrick, just walking kind of a big loop, and it took 20 minutes just to circle around, and so that's quite a distance.
Hi, so I just want to also butt in a little bit. So there's a series of these courtyard spaces, so this is totally open, like anyone can go in. The one over there, you saw a big large park down there. That's gate. You know, there's a gate to it, so that's only for the residents here. And also, I don't know whether you can hear it, but at this level now, you can start to hear the noise of the street, because we're approaching the street now. Various bridges, someone just swearing. Yeah, it's quite vibrant. And now we're kind of at the edge of the complex, and you start to see the streets. You know, and then also the language of the complex changes. It almost just becomes a wall. Unless you know how to get in, right? So you've got all these bridges, you got the station there, take it down. And then I don't know what you want to have the last look of the. Okay, I'm gonna shut down my. When, if you want to say something now.
Yeah, I don't know. We're just walking down to the station. I think one comment about what you're saying about the language of the complex changes as you step out of it, because it's always been, the complex has been always designed to be something quite introverted. So you see kind of a really nice public amenities, you see the kind of the lake, but everything is inside. So that is, I think, one language of it that sort of indicate that this is in a way private, but it is quite open and anyone can come in. And so that's the kind of the public part of it. And I think one of the things that quite interesting, I suppose, to point out that this idea of living in the city, you know, connected to the underground and, you know, having all this kind of arts facility and complex, it's not something that at that time when this complex was built is quite a new idea, simply because I guess it's a very British thing. There's always this kind of a binary relationship between the countryside and the city. So the city has always seen as a city, as a place where you produce, you know, you go there, especially here in the financial district, you make money, and then you go home to your quiet place to live. So especially after World War II, when the population in the city declined dramatically, I think it went from like, I don't know, 10,000 to about 50 or something crazy like that. And they've decided, okay, what do we do now with this huge swath of land? And even the idea of creating such a big estate for people to live and have a good life is not a very English idea. And I think for us, I mean, I grew up in the city. I'm quite a city girl, and obviously you would think, okay, yeah, of course it's straightforward. You build something nice in the middle of a city and everyone would come and live and it would be popular, but it really wasn't the case. It was quite a new concept, and I think the fact that the City of London is a huge part of this. So it is a commercial venture, but also sort of backed by the City of London, and that's why this interconnectedness could happen. And I don't think that a project like this will be ever possible again, because you can see here the complex actually spans the entire block of a city and even built a kind of canopy over the street. It's huge. It's huge and it's really ambitious in that sense. And And I think why people appreciate this now is not only because of the architecture, but the sheer just the sheer ambition and determination. It took about 30 years to be built, and probably we'll never see something like this again. So that's why I think it's really, really unique, has a really unique place in the city of London. And maybe, funnily enough, this could be a precedent for a newer city like Jakarta, right? I mean, Jakarta is so dense, and I mean, it's probably quite difficult to build something like this because it requires so much effort from all parties to make this happen. But it's in a sense, because as a big estate, it's quite successful, and it could be a good precedent on how to really occupy a large part of a city and make it work.
Okay, I just want to say something. So the choreography was supposed to be that I was going to be at the end of the tunnel, and and Nasha was going to be at the end of the other side of the tunnel, and then we're going to continue
so
the
that's
gallery.
Nasha.
Yeah, that's Nasha.
Yeah, so then now we're meeting each other. She's there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
All right, so Nasha, shall we switch to Nasha now? Okay, I'm gonna shut down my camera. Switch to Nasha, okay? Oh, by the way, this is there's a Banksy here. If you're interested in that kind of thing.
But is it actually Banksy though, or is it like a fake one?
I don't know. Looks like a Banksy. Otherwise, there would have been none of this stuff.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
cool.
Switch, Nasha. Keep going, Nasha.
So yeah, so I'm walking over the tunnel from the station, which is there, and then now I'm going all the way to Silk entrance in the gallery. So as you can see, the tunnel they have lots of like entrance to Barbican station, to Barbican area. Like there's one way there to the exhibition hall, and then another side to the cinema, and then on the other side to the gallery, and then behind me here it's the parking area for all the cars in Barbican. So one thing to note from this hall is that they think it truly how people can get into Barbican, and like as you can see, there's a lot of colorful panels and all that, and they think about the lightings and all of the accessories in here. So it's not making it as scary or dark as you can see sometimes in Jakarta. So it still looks interesting. Okay, so this is already the entrance for the cinema. And then this is the residential tower called Cromwell Tower.
Nasha, okay, so we're at the end of the street. That's the entrance into the building, which we won't be going today, but fortunately we have a video that we've made over the weekend, so that Ardi is going to play to you. So this is the entrance from Silk Street. As you can see, it's on a street level. The podium is just up there, so that's where we started the journey today, kind of at that level, and then you can kind of just see a snippet of the conservatory there with the space inside. So and of course there you got all this circulation spaces going in, for vehicles to go into the building and whatnot. So Adi, are you ready to play the film?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna shut down and you can go.
Cepet banget ngomong.
So I guess a little bit of a narrative here. At the moment, Barbican is already open to public, but you have to buy tickets to the exhibition in order to get in, and that's why you see it very empty. Actually, usually this hall is what you would call, I mean, there's a lot of spaces like that in London, but you can just come in, sit, you don't have to order food or anything, plug in your laptop, and you can just stay here all day and work. And people do that a lot. And then maybe, you know, in the evening, they go to a lecture or something, or meet a friend, or see any exhibition. So there's, this is one of the, what we call the living rooms of the city, which is really a shame that it clearly doesn't look like it now. But made me really miss those normal days. But usually you have a cafe, you have a coffee shop there on the right, and you can just sit around really. And I think this is the kind of place that even in other places in Europe, it's not really common, because you really feel like you can stay in the place and make use of it however you want. I mean, we were not even allowed to step out, but we asked nicely, and this is, you can see the lake that Patrick showed earlier. And this is also usually where people gather and enjoying summer weather, I guess, when it's nice. And that's the church.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Abby, would you please go back in a little bit backward? Yeah. I want to ask actually about the structure. But structure. Why is it the column that big? The column, and then there is this, like, the whole, so it's all the utility stuff inside the column. Is that correct?
I actually don't know. It looks like it. I mean, all I know is that this art center comes quite late in planning. So when they've already agreed on building the Barbican estate, as in the residential, about 10 years later, then they have an idea of making this art center much bigger. So I know that they also try to kind of dig in. So they want to dig lower to enable to gain some space. And maybe this, I would imagine there's a bit of structure and the services of the building that is, it's not an afterthought, but something that they sort of have to adapt to make it work. So I would imagine that would be some of the case here, where you're seeing, I mean, the columns, yeah, they look huge. I'm sure they're not purely structural.
I see. Okay, Ardi. Continue. Thank you, Rin.
Where were we actually?
We're sort of on the second floor. We're going up. So the exhibitions are always on the top floor. One of the, well, they call it the art gallery. I was actually surprised how busy it was inside, considering. And this is when you exit the gallery. Now they sort of have one-way system, so you exit through the conservatory, which is quite nice. In normal times, sometimes this conservatory are closed because you can hire it for private events. I think some people get married here, which is nice. I think this is one of the largest conservatory in London, in the UK. It's really quite a pleasant space, and one of the spaces that really remain unchanged since the beginning, I would say, in terms of the look. And you don't usually have the shops there, but I guess it's quite nice that they have it at the moment. And you have to book tickets to see the conservatory these days. They just want to limit the number of people that comes in, but otherwise it's very nice space. This is a route where we're going down to the lower level.
So beautiful. Barbican.
think we're standing on top of where Patrick ended his little journey before, kind of on the upper level.
Yeah. That's Silk Street.
Yeah, that's Silk Street. Actually, this entrance is also quite new. I don't remember when that was. I think it was kind of early 2000 when they refurbished the whole building. They had to rethink about how they repurposed this part, because it was mostly used for deliveries, but they wanted to create a separate entrance for the art center. So yeah, even in the 2000, people are still rethinking of how do you actually get in and get out and go around Barbican, because you can almost get lost sometimes. I mean, luckily you have certain sort of points of interest that you can always refer back to, like, you know, you always look for the lake or you look for certain towers, but I mean, the towers, they all look kind of the same. So this is can't see very clearly here, but underneath here on this level is also when you can go up to the towers. But the concierge, so if you're a visitor and you want to go into these towers, you have to go down to the lower level, to the to sort of the street level. And this bridge, they have a name, it's something High Walk, is new, and they're connecting some of the new developments around there. And I think it's really quite nice that they continue doing this elevated walkway in this area, because in many ways they don't have to, but I think they're continuing this legacy of the Barbican, and suddenly now that you can walk until quite far actually around this area and go through other buildings, and it's becoming something quite unique. And what they're doing as well, they take you to some of the ruins that wasn't fully bombed. It's kind of on the left hand side. There you go. The ruins that the remaining ruins that wasn't completely flattened out during the wars. That's quite nice. And as you can see there, like I was saying before, that sometimes people just run around these pathways for the afternoon walk, and that's quite cool as well, because you're definitely experiencing the city in a slightly different way. Also in this view, you see a different typology of flats. Like here, you can actually go into your flats without going to concierge. So in Barbican, you have many different ways of different level of privacy. So some towers you have to go through a concierge. Some residential building you have to go through a special gate and then you get into your area. And some are like this. Basically, your front door is facing a public pathway. So those kind of different conditions is quite interesting, I find. And so depending where you live, you have a different level of privacy to the public. Whoa, this is quite shaky. And this is view to the private garden. This garden is private, as in you can't, public can't go in. You need a special key. So every resident is given a key, which they have to return when they leave. And I know some of my friends were really tempted to keep the keys because then it means you have your own little park where you can picnic and meet friends and have barbecue. So that's really quite a nice feature. On top of that, most flats have really generous balcony, so outdoor space is really not a problem when you're living here. It's quite nice in that sense. It's a good contrast with the concrete, the harsh concrete element. Ah, that's that girl who ran. We're seeing her doing a loop. And then from here you can go down, and then you arrive at the station. And that's the kind of walkway that Patrick started his journey underneath that tunnel.
Jadi sebentar, why speaking Indian? So the background story to this is so Win was going to do a route, but then she got lost. I guess it also kind of
Yeah, I got quite lost.
it shows how even for us who's, I mean, we have some familiarity with the space. It's really mind-bogglingly yeah, it's quite hard to navigate yourself in this spaces in a way. Yeah. So shall we? Do you want to switch to my screen now, Anis?
Yes, sure. So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna. Let me. Where shall we
Where
go?
are you?
So the Silk Street entrance is then. So the gallery entrance is out there, I think to the left. So above me, you would have the conservatory and whatnot. But here, I quite like this place because this is, in a way, shows where everything connects. So you have ramps going down, ramps going up. You've got ramps going down into underneath us into the car parking spaces. You've got stairs going into. Oh yeah, and then there's Nasya there as well. Makes it more confusing. Yeah, so that's the Guildhall School. So I'm gonna go up the stairs now. Not the stairs, sorry, the ramps, and I'm going to go to the bridge that connects this block with the other block. This place is quite nice. Like over here, you can see the untreated concrete. It's quite, I mean, it's rough, but at the same time, you don't have this really kind of really coarse treatment of the concrete.
That treatment is completely banned from the UK.
And then you can see
because it's literally like literally people doing it with a little hammer slowly until to get there.
So that's when the footage of I think us going up the stairs inside was in that space there at the back. So, oh, sorry. No.
Whoa.
No, just. Are you lost?
No, I thought the library was open. I'm not sure to get into it. So
well,
no, I do know that.
Okay. It is a bit confusing with the COVID. Okay, so where am I? Okay, so that's the bridge there. Going to another block. So this block contains all the galleries and then whatnot. You can see there's a little bit of the conservatory up there. So Win was up there in that space. And then, so over there, that's where I started the tour today. And then the bridge at that block, this block, and you've got a lake just underneath us. It's quite nice, it's being used. I think the one thing that always struck me is also how all these 5-story blocks or 6-story blocks, kind of the mid-height buildings, how they're kind of you know, they have this really strange relationship with the other blocks. It's always, you know, a few meters back, and also kind of makes you also wonder why they didn't go higher. And I speculate that the logic for this is if you go higher, then all the you know, the open spaces will be overshadowed with buildings. So that's why they have to have quite a big space in between them, and also not build too high. Yeah, it's really special. Have this in the middle of the city.
This is part of the Barbican that I know, because mostly especially the ones in the video. I don't get to visit them.
Yeah.
This part is familiar, yes.
And yeah, just you know, I guess I guess you can see people dancing over on the other side. They're shooting something. Yeah. So this is one of those spaces in London where it's public and you're not compelled to spend money. You just walk around, sit down. I've had many occasions where you just bring beverages and beers and just have a picnic. You don't no one bothers you. They just leave you alone.
But actually, there's a lot of spaces in London that are like that because the British Museum is free, the Tate Modern is free.
Yes.
I think.
Well,
I think
it's getting less and less, isn't it? I think.
I think less. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think what London is trying to do is to make up for the lack of. I mean, London has a lot of green spaces, but what it doesn't have is a lot of urban, little kind of piazza. If you go to Italy or you go to any Mediterranean cities, you would have more kind of. In every block of a city, you have an open space where people can sit. In London, it's really, really hard to find places to sit outside on the street because the streets are very old and they're very narrow and it was kind of designed for horse carts. So there was just not enough space for that. And I think this is the kind of spaces that make up for it.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that you mentioned because if you go to Parisian streets, you have a lot of space to basically put chairs and tables and on the pedestrian walkway.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas in London, you're really, really tight for space on that front. I mean, I don't even know what that is. Like, why? But anyway, it's nice. I don't know, is Nasha? Where's Nasha? Nasha, it would be interesting to hear from you what you think of the space as a performer, right? Because
I think you're saying
when we go to on site visits, each one of us with our respective backgrounds would see the site in a different way, and I think Nasha would see this place in a different way because she's a performer. And then how do you as a performer see this place?
Honestly, I think you said it all, but you stated it all. But in like what I like, what I would like to mention about the gardens is that the way the typology and like I really like all those circular way they make in this pool, and it's just not in a performative way, but there's a lot of things that you could do in those areas aside from the picnic. And then like apa ya, for me you can make some sort of like an exhibition and all that, and you just literally put panels in those area, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. So there's a lot of like not cute spots, but like very thoughtful spots in Barbican that it's very interesting to do something like exhibition performance, and like you don't have to put a lot of effort into it because they are actually already decorated it in a very good way.
Speaking of performance, are there any performance done in this area, or yeah?
Not that I know of in the past 1 year, 1.5 years I stay here, but there is a lot of performance in Barbican Center, and most of them and performance in Barbican Center usually it's very what's the English name for that? Not it's more of like an exploration way. So it's not just like a dance performance or a music performance. There's always something in it, whether it's like a live feed, dancing, or it's very it's very explorational. Yeah, it's so I think one thing to know from any performance in Barbican, it's just they make it very very special. So it's not easy to see just like a dance or just like a play in here. Like it will be something special in there. Because every time I see it, it's not just like a, it's last time I saw there's like a dance performance, but then like they show the performance in on stage, but then on the background there's the live feed from the top view and the side view of the dancers. So it's very interesting. And then some combined movies and dancing with the performance on stage. So it's very, very different.
Yeah, yeah.
Where's Patrick? Okay.
Okay. I was just wondering if there are people who are using these huge platform. You know, it's really huge. Well, when and then people can gather, and then something that happen there, like not inside the building, not inside the theater building, but outside, and people could because of public space. I don't know.
Maybe this is where where Annie comes in.
Yeah.
Is he still around? Come on, Annie, tell us.
What was the question? Was it about whether the high walk spaces are used?
Yeah. This space is really huge, but it's empty, and people don't usually use it in such a free way. Why is that?
Well, I think it's partly because the art centre and the residential estate operate quite separately. So, for like all the high walks, although obviously the complex was built as one division, now they're managed separately. So, in terms of the idea of having like exhibitions or kind of organised kind of public events and stuff in the high walks count as public residential space, and the residents of the Barbican estate. I think kind of having events in their space wouldn't be considered kind of like conducive with them, the way that they kind of, the reasons why they live there as residents. It's, you know, quite a peaceful place to live. So in terms of events happening, the art centre has to always be really careful with the way they negotiate events taking place outside of the building. So anything that might happen on the terrace, we saw in the tour earlier down by the lake. Sometimes things happen out there, or sometimes things will happen in the sculpture court, which was that big curved area behind the building. But they would have to be quite carefully sort of, negotiated with the residents. So it's kind of, you know, any events that are taking place, the fact that there are thousands of people living in the space as well always has to be really carefully thought about. I know there's a story, I don't think this happens anymore, but I know there's a story from when the art centre first opened of one of the concerts in the concert hall went on until, I don't know, quite late, and one of the residents called the police to ask the art centre to be quiet. So, you know, I think that relationship in this kind of space where you've got two different purposes is always something that has to be carefully managed, which is why the high walks aren't used for that purpose.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. By the way, when Patrick just move around and Nasha just move around with the camera with that high level, Patrick, where do you put your camera? Do you put it on on your eye level or on your chest, or where is it when you walk?
Sorry, tadi di chest sih.
On the chest. I was just thinking about. This is another thing, right? This is another thing. I was just curious about whether they really want to design it in a way that my voice is echoing. All right. So as you were walking, when you were on the edge of the terrace, and then you're kind of looking down, just like this, for example, like this. You know, that width of the railing, if we could say it, if we would call it a railing. It's quite huge, right? The width. So
Yeah,
that
it's big.
when we walk, it's as if we have the frame, like the lower frame that kind of not allowing us to look below that.
Okay, sorry, because I was here. Okay.
Yeah, so it's as if the designer wants, I mean, the architect wants us to see from that level of, not below it, or I don't know, maybe it's just
No,
like,
that's I guess that's interesting also because you see it you definitely see it in Unité d'Habitation in Marseille. It's almost like a Corbusian trick where, so if you go to the podium level of the Unité, so the Unité d'Habitation is kind of, it's on the, I would say it's on the edge of the city, and then you can go to the podium, and the podium has this very, very strong parapet like this. I mean, it's not as thick, right? But the height is placed in such a way that you would only see once you're there, you will only see the mountains and a bit like this, yeah, the mountains and everything else on the background, but not anything on the foreground. Because if you were to just peek through like this, you can see all the crap. You see all the suburban houses and all the mess underneath, and kind of just having this parapet around, yeah, makes you look further rather than what's in front of you, I guess.
yeah, right.
Good observation. Rachel said that I should mention something about performance by Ragnar. So a while ago there was an exhibition by Ragnar. I don't know, Ragnar K. I don't know how to say his last name, but he had an installation in the lake where there's this two, I think if I recall correctly, just this two people in period costume just in a canoe, and then it's just rowing back and forth inside the lake. So that was the yeah. I guess it's also kind of, it's interesting because that resonates with Fikra's presentation just then. Fikra's project where you're using the space in a way that you're not supposed to, and somehow it looks natural, but at the same time it looks so foreign. So that's interesting. Yeah.
And another thing that I know that happens in the Barbican that is really not supposed to is that I mean, there's a word for it. What's the word for people who climb to buildings? Parkour. Well, kind of parkour. Yeah, parkour, but yeah, they just basically go up. So I know that happens quite often. My friend lived there for a couple of years, and he said that he didn't see it twice, but certainly all other residents saw it. Just one person just climbing up without any tool to the top, and they would never publicize this because they don't want people to get inspired. But Barbican is definitely one of those spots where people would just try their luck and just climb up to the top and come down.
It's already on YouTube, Win. So it's already.
Oh, is that?
Yeah. So,
okay, mau gimana nih, Nis?
Yeah. So you wrap up.
What time does it end?
No.
Yeah, what time does it end?
Well,
yeah.
I would love to read some of the comments on the chat. Or Bu Altre, would you please share your thoughts directly?
Oh, I should read my own comment.
Well, you don't need to read it. You just tell us more about it.
Okay. What I saw from the assignment, it's interesting. So what I found interesting is that if the three presenters that made their assignment tonight haven't really went to Barbican physically, I think this assignment is an interesting case of third space, where the presenters, all the presenters, make their presentation as an appreciation of their imagined space that is based from the representation of Barbican that they found from, I don't know, maybe from some papers or some street view or some virtual tours. Well, what Nasha, Patrick, and Annie share was like their conceived space of what what their living experience. So all of it make the like an interesting case of the trialectic of the space between the people who actually live there, experience the real space, and the people who live from some other part of the world that doesn't even know the context of the place, but from the representation that they found from the space, they have their own imagined activity, imagined appreciation of the space, and that's what gives the actual meaning of the space. And I think it makes a beautiful is it beautiful and meaningful what is it, picture or example of the third space of Andy Lopov and Sochia's third space. If you're talking about architecture space, there's so much that we can learn from this assignment, and I find it very, very interesting. Well, some of us visit places with virtual things, and some of us really experience it. There is always a gap, but the gap is a way to give another meaning, another interesting meaning for the actual space. Really, that's what I think. All of the three together, I think they all make a very individual appreciation and very good individual appreciation of the space. That's what I think. Thank you, Anis.
Yeah, Walter, thank you so much. I definitely will look into the references. Yeah, during the walk with Patrick and Nasha, Padani texted me, and now I'm going to ask Padani to just tell the floor what he texted me. Padani?
Bisa, can I comment on
sure.
Yeah. No, I think just very quickly. I think one thing that like amongst us who are doing this, we're asking is where should we put the site, the actual site visit, right? Do you put it at the beginning, which wasn't possible because we didn't have a plan on how to do this, or do you put it in the middle of the course, or do you put it at the end? So we kind of opted for the end because we didn't really have the time to do it earlier. But I think it would have been, the relationship between us and the students and the work would have been very different if we, where you place site visits. Because also typically if you're thinking about site visits, you would do it at the beginning of a project, not at the end of the project. So yeah, kind of this reversing and the order, and also thinking about spaces as an imagined space rather than actual spaces is quite a nice outcome, I think, from this very strange situation that we are in at the moment.
Yeah, I think I want to add about that as well, because when we were talking about how we're supposed to do this, I think the nature of the Barbican all really propels us to do it this way, because we thought if we're just walking around with a camera showing the space, the students wouldn't be able to appreciate the entirety of it, and because it's not a singular building, it's not a single church or monument, it's really a complex. And so we thought just by giving the students some time to really make the Barbican their own in their imagination, and then we present to them sort of the reality, so to say. Yeah, I find that really, really fascinating. It's a little bit like, when you read a book and then they make a film out of it, and then you sort of match the two things, and sometimes they're not quite as what you think, but you also appreciate what you imagine in your mind as much as what you see on the screen. So, well, hopefully that's been the case for everyone. Especially for me, I really appreciate seeing how much sensitivity there has gone into representing Barbican, even though most of you haven't been to it. And I was really expecting a lot of sections and drawings, but it's actually much more than that. So it's great. It's great.
All right. If I could add a bit about that, when I watched Patrick's video, what came into my mind is that the students must have seen this the first time before they started the whole project, because that's just my first reaction, because I thought there are lots of things that we cannot access through the internet, and if they had done it before they started their project, probably they could do more. But then, you know, looking at it from this point of view right now that we're reviewing in this whole sessions, I think that's true, that we can have two separate way of looking at things: the imagined way and then the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, the real depiction of it. Yeah. So yeah. I'm quite satisfied with it, actually. Ardi, what do you think? Before we go on to Pak Danny.
Miss, actually, I'm curious what the students think about this. So, if anyone wants to comment, I mean, how you perceive this this new way to visit or to perceive architecture object, let's say. Maybe, I don't know, start from who do we have here? Fikra, after you watch the video, now you want to skate more, or?
Yes, I do.
Good.
I want to do the real intervention to the spaces out there, because it's not enough just to intervene by my work. I want to feel, but if I skate there, how would it be? I think that's it. But I think what I just realized is on the first year we actually did the same work as this to share our opinion about the space in the architectural building, like Le Corbusier work. Like we asked to. Berapa sih?
You mean in Tokyo?
Yeah.
When we were doing the field trip in Tokyo. So yeah, okay.
But on this case, we challenged to create a story about Barbican Center that is a whole different things that we haven't tried.
Yes, nice. Pram? This video is on.
I realized a lot of things that I did not realize before with internet learning just by looking at the video. I think one of them is how big and large the space in Barbican is, and I think the scale is. I think it's kind of overwhelming for me viewing it like the first time Patrick shared his video, and yeah, as you all have said, it's kind of confusing to comprehend the full space of the building or the complex. And I think one of the reason is because they have a lot of similar shapes and typologies, like long tunnels with a lot of big columns. And yeah, it's just it's something interesting for me to realize something new.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Pram. All right. Yeah.
By the way, Nasha mau cabut tuh. I
Oh,
think
okay.
she has to go. She has to rush somewhere else. So
Bye, Nasha.
bye, Nasha.
Bye, Nasha. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Walking into the sunset. Bye.
All right. Okay. Anyone else? The students? It could be students from the class or from outside of the class. Anyone? Or if there is no students. I think we have to wrap up. Yeah, Ardi. Maybe we could have a closing comments, probably from Pa Alfar or Pa Dani. Maybe Pa Dani first, and then Pa Alfar. Pa Dani is one of the lecturers in UPH as well, and Pa Alfar is our chairman at the department. So maybe Pa Alfar goes after Pa Dani. Pa Dani, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, Pa.
Hello. Okay. I don't know how to start, but I have to say that this is actually a very interesting presentation for 3D presentation. Yeah, because only in how many weeks? 5 weeks, I think. Yeah. You can try. You already yeah. I mean, almost successful to describe about the space that exists in Barbican, because actually I haven't been there as well. So I was enjoying this presentation, and then yeah, it's interesting. But of course, yeah, because Alfar is here, also Ardi and Anis. I think I have to make a comment about something, right? So maybe my first comment is more to how do you call that? The sense, yeah. I mean, I found that all the presentation is a little bit too positive. Sometimes it's not wrong, but it's a bit too plain. But but reaching what you have done, I think it's very, very wonderful. And then the other things what I'd like to comment is more to maybe it's not comment, but to encourage you guys all that it is okay to put a provocative intention. Yeah, I mean, you can, for example, almost of you guys 3 presentation are presenting something in day situation, right? But maybe you can do another way, because for example, for instance, if you try to narrate the spatial quality in, for example, cold evening instead of a day, I think it's really give a significant differentiation. So I mean, you can pull out the people from their seat, and you can take them to how to feel the for example, the darkness, the silence, and so on. So you just not only give something to describe, but maybe giving another additional excitement. Yeah, I think that's all 2 comments that I could say.
Okay, Pa Dani, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know why, but it's so positive, yeah. But maybe if
I think that's what I kind of mentioned about when I was seeing the presentation, that the first one was showing the Barbican as this kind of really warm sunset, and it certainly wasn't seen that way, and also the video game. So I think Danny's comments on encouraging to sometimes see a different side of a building like this, which is public, so it always have different interpretation, and some people like it, some people don't. It feels a certain way on the summer days, but on a kind of cold, dark, rainy London days, there's long tunnels and corridors might feel quite intimidating. So I think exploring that is really quite important, because it's very rare for an estate to be as successful and used this way. There are so many other ones that have failed, and being able to critique this kind of creation is important as architects, I think.
True. Yeah, I didn't tell them my experience going through the rain in the Barbican when it's like all windy and raining. Yeah, right. Okay. I think Pak Alvaro, maybe you can wrap up. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry I did not follow through the discussion from the beginning, but I would like to appreciate your time especially for the reviewer, for Nasha and Win, Patrick, and Bu Altre, for your participation on Anis' class finals and presentation tonight. And I think it's very interesting what RD and Anis is trying to do. It's I think this kind of thoughts on how to read buildings is probably not being offered in any university in Indonesia. It's the dialogue that the students trying to engage with the buildings. I think that's the most important things on this class, I think, in how to read it and how to perceive the building and express it in their own way. I believe this is the class for the architecture representation, right? Right, Anis? So whatever you're representing may not be the building itself. So I think the object can be secondary. They may not need to be there or know the building or experience the spaces. I think Patrick was saying earlier, like, why are you showing it at the end, the whole walkthrough, and not the beginning? I think that can be in the beginning, middle, or end. But it's just the way the students may read it from the pictures, internet, reading it very briefly, and how they actually telling the story, and they making the graphics to tell the story. I think that's the most interesting things. I did not see everybody's works tonight, but from the beginning, there are the blue and the orange, and when Pak Dani say all the positivity, it can be yes, and why not? We're thinking the negative side of the Barbican, the gloomy side, the cold, the nothingness, and the almost being torn down buildings. But the interesting thing, it's just the memory that these students trying to get out of their head, that they never been there, but they're trying to get out something from their expectation that the building is like this. How do you skate? But how do you skate inside or through the buildings? But I imagine, why stopping there, right? I mean, why are you not skating from the tower down to the water? Because how do you representing skating in Barbican, right? The funny thing, I'd never been to Barbican, but I read it when I was in school. It's interesting that before, the architect wanted to be this utopian. There's a lot of pyramids before. they designed it. There's a lot of pyramids, inverted pyramids, and that's the reason why I think the conservatory has this little bit of pyramid-like. That's some kind of the leftover design that they can build, and they won't like to build. I know they would like to build a swimming pool, like the largest swimming pool in London, as a park. I don't know if that's why there's a lake there. Maybe, I don't know. And then they would like to separate the cars and the humans. That's the reason why when Patrick walking through, there's bridges like Hong Kong type of pedestrian walkways. And then the columns, the Corbusian. So there's a lot of things that we can actually take a glimpse of it, like maybe from the exterior, interior side. Also, there is no difference when you're walking through the outside, all this chiseled concrete, interior, exterior. It's interesting that if one student could actually being exposed to the facade or to the interior or to the stairs or to the water or the texture of the materials, like between the white and the gray and the red and the blue sky, I think that becomes a very kind of like thematic, like a theme-like research throughout the Barbicans. But aside from all those, I guess my own imagination when you guys walking through, and then I keep on thinking in my head, like what if I'm doing this project? You know, which side of the Barbican would I pick? But I appreciate Ardi's and Anis, I guess, intent on this class. Hopefully they can be developed and we have more output on the student works on how to read the worlds. I guess not only the Barbican, how to read the world's sites and every single, I guess, suburbs, countries, cities. So I think that's my, to conclude tonight's events. Thank you again for everyone's work.
Thank you, Bapak.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, Ardi. So we're closing. I'm going to copy paste this link. It's a YouTube channel. We're going to upload the videos to that YouTube channels. Please feel free if you want to subscribe. It's a non-commercial one, so it's Ardi.
So it's still on progress. So we haven't uploaded every videos or projects from students, but I mean, step by step, we will finish uploading also from the previous assignment, also probably from the previous elective class, right, Nis? I mean, they also did amazing job. So so yeah, this also our, let's say, because we enjoy a lot work with these students, let's say, and then I mean, it's probably nice to have this as an archive, so we can always visit and study from this. And yes, I think I want to thank you also for all of the reviewers, Win, Patrick, Nasya, Bu Altre also, and Ani as well. Thank you so much for your time, also for your, I mean, effort doing those videos and then editing for this review session also. But the credit should go to all the students. Unfortunately, we cannot show every projects tonight because of the time and schedule, but I mean, later we can check it on the YouTube channel. I mean, all of them has a potential actually, but we have to select 3 that we think can bring more discourse. So yes, thank you so much.
Thank you everyone. Have a nice evening, day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.